In this video, I want to talk about Loom knitting socks, and I have a test sock here that I want to show you. This is a very nice little loom that maybe you've seen on eBay. Comes in a box like this, no directions. Comes with 2 hooks and 2 large eye plastic needles. $19 on eBay, $19.99, $8.50 or thereabouts if you buy it on eBay from China, or $9.99 at Amazon. I bought one on eBay because I didn't know they were on Amazon. Then I bought one on Amazon. Worsted weight, basically a size 7 to maybe an 8.5 sock, women's sock size, which would be the smaller of the men's sizes. A very nice loom to work. Typical knitting Nancy pins, and I guess it's a Chinese takeoff from the patented Prim looms, P-R-Y-M. And they have at least small and medium, also on Amazon. The medium, that would be the same size as this, was $16.87 or something like that. So there is the loom. Worsted weight yarn. This one is for worsted weight yarn. And that's how I started making this sock. This is that loom. And worsted weight Red Heart Super Saver acrylic. This is wider than I really wanted it, simply because this would be a boot sock for me, because the yarn itself is thick. And yet, you know, it worked up very nicely on this loom. So, because I wanted to do a test, I haven't done the short row heels in a while, but I did the short row heel. Did a little bit more loom knitting. Then I picked the stitches up with double point needles and did some double point knitting, basically to check the gauge of the loom and with this yarn. Size 9 double points. And you can see, this is why loom knitting socks gives you a whole different structure than double point knitting socks. My dog has white hair, which gets on everything. So, loom knitting, size 9 double points, and the different texture of the sock. Both, the size does not change, which is really what I was testing. So if I want to say knit socks either way, size 9 double points, worsted weight yarn, 32 stitches. Loom, double point. But then I pushed it a little bit and got out some straight needles, size 9 garter stitch. I took it off the loom to do the double points, took it from the double points to the straight needles. And the reason this is a good test sock is because double point knitting makes automatic stockinette stitch. They call this a stockinette stitch, but you can see the structure is a little bit different than circular knitting stockinette stitch. And then when you go to garter stitch, this gives, this is when a size would change. It doesn't really change the size, but it changes the fabric. So my pattern is 30 rows heel, 30 rows toe, and this are 30 rows, and it's a little bit long simply because of the garter stitch. So when you pick up a loom and do socks, what you're doing is adapting these other ways of making socks into a very structured and in some ways limited because you can do heels many ways on needles, but there's really one or two good ways to do it on a knitting loom. So this ended up being a very good sock to do for myself for the gauge. So if I want to basically use worsted weight yarn, but I do feel that the Red Heart Super Saver acrylic, most of the colorways are too thick. They're a big, thick worsted. This is Lion Brand Woolies, and it's much thinner, much more normal. It's more like a number 4 weight, worsted weight. But what I wanted to point out is that because of the way these pegs are, they're opened like Knitting Nancy pegs. This sock does not pull together like looms that have narrow pegs. So the Authentic Knitting Board looms, I guess if you're working with the boy round looms, those have like, most all of those pegs are round at the top with a post. And some of them have a slot in the post for your hook. All of those that are wider at the top and skinny, your fabric is going to pull in a little bit. Because as you knit the stitch, the fabric finds itself and the 2 stitches pull together down here. In fact, on Authentic Knitting Board board looms, they used to make a tadpole loom, which is 16 stitches on each rail. Now they came out with their 32 stitch loom that has stitches on the end and prevents what I'm talking about, the fabric pulling in. But you actually end up including stitches on the side. And that's a straight double knitting, or single knitting, but double knitting board. And that's what you have to keep in mind with this loom, is that the fabric is not really going to pull together like you're used to seeing on a lot of looms. So when I started this, I was thinking, okay, I got to about here, and I said, that's going to be wide. I actually need them wide. I don't want a cuff, and I don't want it tight around my leg or ankle. But, like I said, with the thickness of the yarn, you can tell how thick that is. I would really wear this for boots. It's a big sock. Whereas this yarn, it's a little bit of a nicer, they're both acrylic. This is a nicer, softer sock yarn, really. Which they're $6.99 for 1 ball, and these are, that's like 3.5 ounces or 3 ounces, and this is anywhere from $5 to $10 for 7 ounces. So this is cheaper. This is a little bit better. Lion Brand Woolies worsted weight. The overall project, Scout, my dog, is going to get this as a Christmas stocking. I'm going to put a rope on it and maybe embroider his name. But the overall testing of this is really like doing a swatch test with any kind of knitting. If I get in the middle of a project and I decide to change something, how is it going to affect everything? So, in my opinion, these are wonderful little looms. And I'm going to try even DK weight yarn on them, simply because the way that the pegs are keep the stitches that wide. And the only room they have to pull together is in between the pegs. I've been doing this is all E-wrap and not flat stitch, except where I did it different ways. A very good, inexpensive sock loom with things you need to think about when you're making socks.